high five. Come on. Inside the 10. Heads first. He dives inside the 5-yard line.
Rushing forward, ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground and still on the ground. Picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line.
Davis gets 19 to McCaffrey with a 19-yard reception. And Terrell again for at least 19 and more than that. Inside the 10, touchdown Denver.
All week long, Marty Schottenheimer talked to his
Manning out of the gun. Manning lets it fly. It's caught by Thomas. There's the record for Peyton Manning.
And welcome into the show, everybody. I'm Mundungus Creevy, joined today by my co-hosts Glenn Hauser and Mr. Cameron Parker. To make sure that you like, subscribe, share, comment, and turn on notifications so that you can get alerted anytime we go live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Also, tune into all of our other podcasts. Broncos Talk every Tuesday at 7654. The MHRT podcast every Thursday at 7654. And the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue podcast every Friday at 7654. Now, I got to be honest, I didn't even remember that I had that Peyton Manning to Demaryius Thomas clip in that intro. Almost broke me a little bit. Like that, I didn't remember. And of course, I'm sure everyone knows, but Demaryius Thomas ended up passing away this last weekend. Not really going to go into details on how and why. You can look that up if you're interested in that. But one of the greatest Broncos receivers of all time. He will be missed. Thoughts and prayers go out to his family and his friends in this time. And I don't really have a whole lot prepared. I didn't really want to get prepared for that. So I just kind of want to open it up to you two. If there's any thoughts, any memories, anything you want to talk about with Demaryius Thomas, and anybody in the chat as well. If there's anything you want to say, get off your chest, just go ahead and throw it in there.
Yeah, it's one that, first off, he won't be forgotten. And I'll start off by talking about, for one, it's actually something that Glenn and I briefly talked about in DMing one another. But for being considered, and this is my opinion, for being considered the most underappreciated Denver Broncos player of all time, to see the amount of responses and comments from, you could say, NFL players and Broncos fans, and more importantly, Broncos fans, but just from everybody all across the country that are Broncos fans, to see the amount of support and love for a guy that gave everything and, truly played every single game as if his life mattered. And that's probably the most important thing for me that has always stood out with DT, is that he played every single game like it mattered. And more importantly, he treated everybody else's life like it mattered. And that goes to his work in the community and his beautiful smile and, everything that he even treated. It's one of the reasons why I've, felt the way I did about Justin Simmons. And it's one of the reasons why Justin and DT are my top two Denver Broncos players of all time. When you care about a cause that is so much bigger than yourself, it just seems like, it's so much sweeter when you can be able to change the world that way. And so for DT to be able to touch so many different lives with his smile, his grace, and his ability to just, just affect the game off the field as he would on the field, it takes your breath away.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I think that stands out the most is what people are saying about him. It's like, no one's really focusing on his football, his talent. They're not kind of empty, cliched remarks that somebody would make when someone dies. They're deeper than that. You look at someone like a Peyton Manning, who is very careful with his words, and he's saying, here's a man that treated my kids like his own. and he was a better person than a player, and he called him a Hall of Famer. And when you think about that relationship with Peyton, it's who name three receivers better than Demaryius during those few years when he and Peyton teamed up. I don't think three exist. I mean, he was definitely top three, and perhaps even number one at that point. They were so perfect together.
Well, I was going to say, and we look at Demaryius Thomas's numbers, and obviously he goes way past that, but he was able to put himself as, if not the number 2 wide receiver in Broncos history, the number 1. And he only played 11 seasons, and 1 or 2 of those were not with Denver. So the amount that he was able to put into the game was incredible in just a short time. But there are so many stories outside of that of, him being an introverted person, not really that outgoing when he's out in public and talking to people, but he would always make time for players' kids, coaches' kids. He would work with the youth in the community. So there's so many things that he was aside from football.
Yeah. And if you know his background too, and there have been, the stories are just, it wouldn't surprise me if there were a movie made of his life, because it's that it's unbelievable. He could have gone sideways with the circumstances with his mom and his grandmother and in jail, and his mom refusing to take a plea, by testifying against her own mother. And to not only break out of that and be a successful football player, going to college basically on his own, becoming a professional essentially on his own, but to come out of life that from that as the person that they're all talking about, go on Eric Decker's Instagram and read what he had to say. Go on really anyone that knew him on that level. And I never had the opportunity to meet him, but just this is what you would hope people would say about you if you were gone. And today is going to be a very emotional day.
Yeah. And that actually brings me to what I wanted to bring up, because, it really just dawned on me today with this Bronco game. You guys can go check about it. I actually tweeted it, but this actually just dawned on me today. Do you guys remember when they were doing the whole schedule release and they were figuring out, okay, who should the extra game be? Should it be the Minnesota Vikings? Should it be the Detroit Lions?
Right.
Remember, chose the Detroit Lions. And every NFL team dealt with that. But who would have thought that in a typical NFL year where you have a 16-game season and not a 17, or should we say, 16 games or 17 or whatever of a typical NFL season, of an extra week, this is the year where we get that, is where Demaryius Thomas is going to end up being honored for a Detroit Lions game. In a game that we thought would many weeks ago be potentially a very meaningless game, actually may end up going down as arguably the most memorable Bronco game of all time, because of the fact that you have arguably one of the greatest wide receivers in Denver Broncos history that is going to be remembered and loved for infinity and beyond. I thought one of the greatest tweets, and there were so many that you can count. You can go to Mario Vitanzi's page. You can go to, you can go to Nikki Javala, a former Broncos beat writer. There are so many different places that you can go that have really remembered DT. But one of the ones that also stood out to me was Mile High Memories, and he tweeted like a picture about the 8 and how if you flip the 8 to its side, how it's the infinite number. And that's exactly, so when I say infinity and beyond, The 8, if you flip it over, is the infinity sign. And so Broncos country really will love DT for infinity and beyond.
And
I was going to say, speaking of Mario Vitanzi, he's working on trying to get some Demaryius Thomas merch out, as far as a sweatshirt, where everything would then go to charity. So make sure you're looking into that. Keep track of that for if that's able to come out. But in some form or fashion, he's going to get something out that you can purchase, and the proceeds would go to charity. That has something to do with Demaryius Thomas. I don't know if you guys saw the markup of it. Of what he's looking at. It's really cool.
It's really cool. Yeah.
It's 88 with like corners of the 8 whited out. So they're like DT is in orange in the 88 with some angel's wings. It looks really cool.
Knowing Mario personally, I can just only imagine, what it's been like, for him to be able to create this hoodie. And I even replied to him, and told him that and we all know, the three of us know, how great he's been about making hoodies. But
yeah,
the way that it's pictured, the way that the display is, that is probably going to go down as his best hoodie of all time. I thought that the way that he was able to capture the 88, and anybody that does not know, the 88 that was on the front of that was actually a T-shirt that Demaryius wore, was that logo. But the angel wings was a really, really nice touch that helped bring back a photo that Ryan Konigsberg shared. And it was a picture that had Demaryius Thomas going, I believe it was onto the football field, but it was captured in the tunnel of that. And someone had decided to Photoshop angel wings with that. So it just gives chills down my spine just thinking about, all the memories with DT and just all the people that loved DT.
We'd be remiss not to offer our condolences to Mario, because he and DT have been tight for a very, very long time.
They have.
If you go into Mario's office, not in his, but right behind reception is a beautiful painting of DT, and it's actually inscribed to Mario's dad. Mario told an amazing story to us when he joined us a few months back, where Demaryius had not signed his rookie contract at that point, and the team was not paying for his hotel because he was not under contract. And of course, knowing his upbringing, this isn't somebody that had a lot of money to spend. And somehow he was connected with Mario's dad. I'm not certain how, but he mentioned, I guess, the circumstance, and Nelson said, "You can stay with us." And I guess he called Mario's mom and said, "There's going to be a young man showing up on the doorstep soon." And sure enough, DT shows up at the Vitanzi's house and stayed there for I think a few weeks. And one of the funny stories is Mario was a CU student at the time and was going to a party and asked if it was okay if DT came with him. And they're like, yeah, I think they were like, sure. Right. Yeah. All of a sudden DT shows up. He's wearing a Colorado Rockies hat. And someone thinks that it's Dexter Fowler, which is like one of the great stories. But Mario is another one. He's a friend of all of ours, and it's somebody that I did want to offer my condolences, on this loss, because I think another thing too is that it's just so shocking. Like, it came out of nowhere. He's 33 years old. He just retired. He retired a Bronco. It gave the impression that there was more to come with him, with this team. They sent a crew down to Georgia to interview DT and have him do his announcement. They were talking about the Ring of Fame already, which was a given anyway. And then just for it all to just overnight, essentially, it's scary.
And I think that it's such a blessing when you have those types of things happen in your life, right? And I think that is one of the things with Mario that and his family that is just such a blessing, because and it's such a great display of both who Mario and the rest of his family is, and along with DT, because with the ability for Vitanzi, Mario, and the rest of his family to have that huge of heart, and Demaryius to have that huge of a heart to be accepted like that, just goes to show you that there's more important things than just football. And even just to see all the players and everybody represent 88 walking to the field. And so yeah, and just to bring it back to with Mario, to offer condolences, again, it goes way more than just football. For the ability to help players in need, Mario's been one of those guys. He and his dad have been both those guys that have been able to help those players in need, and so we are definitely praying for you and your family, and so Mario, if you're listening, we love you, pal.
Yeah, and it's again, make sure that you're watching Mario's Twitter feed, because that's where he's going to have the merchandise or the hoodie posted, so you can go ahead and get that for so the proceeds can go to charity. So we're going to kind of segue a little bit into what's going on. We do know that today is going to be a Demaryius Thomas tribute at the game. I'm not sure what's going to happen in the stadium. I know that they have the number 88 on the back of their helmets. I kind of wish they would just let all the players play in 88 jerseys. That'd be kind of cool. I don't know if they're going to do that, though.
The announcers might flip out.
And number 88 catches the ball. But yeah, we're going to do a quick spin around the NFL, get some scores, and then we're going to kind of continue a conversation that we were having right before we went live on who we cheer for over who in the AFC West. So right now we've got Atlanta over Carolina 17-14. The Browns are beating the Ravens 24-6, and I believe Lamar Jackson is out with an ankle injury in that one. Seattle's beating Houston 16-13. The Chiefs are like spoon spanking the Raiders 35-3. The Saints are up 10-6 over the Jets. The Titans are up 10-0 over the Jags. And let's see, we got Dallas up 24-0 over the Washington football team. So right before we went live, we were trying to decide who to cheer for over who. So like when you look at it, for me, the Raiders are last. I will never cheer for anybody. The Raiders will never get a cheer from me. And then for me, it's the Chiefs. And then it's the Chargers. And the reason why I put the Chargers over the Chiefs is because over the last 5 to 7 years, Chiefs win. That's my only reason. Like, they win, and they win a lot, and they go to the Super Bowl, and they make the playoffs, and I don't like that. You win a lot, I don't like you. So I'm going to cheer for the Chargers over you, because the Chargers haven't won anything yet.
They're like a teddy bear.
Yeah, no, the Chargers are probably the one team that you're fine rooting for, But the thing that's one of the reasons why I can't put the Raiders yet into that category is because I actually love Derek Carr.
Yeah,
and so it's hard for me to root for a team. The most important position in sports for a quarterback that I have the utmost respect for. And then you got the Chiefs, who we can't seem to even beat, and they have.
That's what I'm saying.
And then you have a wide receiver who, well, the rest is history. Anyway, but no, I would just rank it probably Chiefs, Raiders, and then Chargers for at least in the division. You cheer for the Raiders over the Chiefs? I would. Okay. I very much would. Yeah. And it's just simply due to all the other factors of, you have a team that seems to, should we say, trick the system and bring in players that should not necessarily be on NFL rosters anymore. Yep. And to also, as I mentioned, we have a 12-game losing streak against the Kansas City Chiefs that we can't seem to break currently right now. So yeah, I absolutely hate the Chiefs more than any opponent in our division.
So for me, I view it really. I mean, the Raiders are the worst. So I'm kind of I'm in agreement with Mike, but in rooting for the different teams, one, I'll always root for an NFC team over an AFC team if they're not the Denver Broncos, right?
Yeah.
And number two, like today, that we got the Chiefs Raiders. I'm looking at it from a Broncos playoff standpoint. The Raiders are the same record as us. They've beaten us already. They beat us at home. And so we need them to start to continue their tailspin, right? So the Chiefs, by all accounts, have basically, I think it's fair to say they've locked up one of the top 7 seeds in the AFC playoffs. So if we can
even one of the top 4s,
right? So if we can have a bona fide playoff team bump off somebody that's competing with us for a spot, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
and if it's the Raiders too, that's the cherry on top. Quite honestly, it's like I'm looking at the Ravens game. It's like, come on, Baltimore, like let's get back here. We need the Browns to lose, and normally I like the Browns, but they beat us. They have a similar record.
Yeah.
We need some of these teams that we're all muddled with, or the Broncos are muddled with in the playoff picture, to start losing. And we also need to start winning ourselves and maybe have take some control of our own destiny as well. So
yeah,
that's how.
And since we're talking about the Raiders, let's continue with some offensive woes. But let's talk about the Broncos last week. And it seems like throughout the season, the Broncos have issues on third downs and in the red zone. Like we go on a 20-play, 12-minute drive, get down to the red zone, and then nope. It ended. No points, not even a field goal, nothing. We just
that was the
went
drive
for 4th and 2, and
that was our ideal drive too. Like,
yeah, that's what we're built for.
On the field for almost a full quarter
to tie the game.
Yeah, and sure enough,
yeah. And I think that also was a key drive that was also the microcosm of a lot of different things. It was a microcosm of us that we just can't simply beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and 2, it's a microcosm of the offensive woes that have just plagued this team, going forward. And it is also a look into the future of potentially what this Broncos team could be and what this Broncos team could look like. So it was a weird like drive. Like I mean, there were so many arguments to be made before the, failed 4th down, if you will. But there were a lot of arguments that was like the best drive that we had witnessed since the Peyton Manning era. I mean, you won't get very many 10-minute, 11-minute drives in a football game, like at all. And and so for them to not even capitalize was a true microcosm to what Glenn talked about with them scoring in the red zone, which I think is ultimately their biggest problem. The third downs, it seems like ever since Jeudy's been in the lineup, the third downs have been a lot better. And so it's one that I think that they'll get better over time, and especially with much better quarterback play. But I mean, as far as scoring points, I don't understand it. And I think that ultimately that's going to end up boiling down to a coaching problem, really, because you have so many different weapons on your football team that can generate touchdowns. And or should we say, when there is so much different momentum, you go a completely different route, or you tip your hand in a certain position or a certain way where exactly who's going to be getting the football, a la the 4th and 2 play to Javonte Williams. Everybody and their mother knew in that stadium who was going to be getting that ball in 4th and 2. And so you decided to feed into that hand and give it to Javonte Williams. So it's just one of those cases where I just think that it's a true microcosm of everything that has been and everything that will be in the future for this Denver Broncos team.
Yeah, and the other part of me is wondering, we had Javonte Williams just crush it last game, over 100 yards rushing.
By the way, thank you. It was like a semi-victory, though. I will say it was a semi-victory, seeing Javonte Williams carry Tyrann Mathieu for 7 years. It's almost like I won the Super Bowl in that regard. So we lost, but it felt like a mini Super Bowl with him carrying Tyrann for 7 yards.
Yeah.
How about Cam doubling down, right?
So we're gonna have Melvin Gordon back in the game today. They said we're gonna have a Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams split, kind of like we'd had all the season. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing?
It's par for the course. Let's just start with that. It's par for the course for this coaching staff, and it's everything that I'm so worried about with Vic at coach, honestly, because it's like, but at the same time, it's like it's nothing against Melvin Gordon. It's one of the reasons why there's arguments being made that Melvin should come back, right? But Javonte gave you an impressive performance against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
He was the offensive MVP of that game. And you're going back to the same way that you've gone with Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, and essentially giving Gordon the start, should we say, and and not necessarily giving the start to Javonte Williams or anything like that. So that's just my biggest problem. And when you show so much loyalty to a coaching staff, why would that change to the players? And that's been my biggest issue.
So Cam, were you surprised when first of all, I loved the Melvin Gordon press conference, and I talked about it a little bit on Thursday, but I like him. I think I enjoyed listening to him. But he said we have 2 number 1 running backs, 2 RB1s. And that is very unusual for somebody who is the incumbent or in the veteran to be including a rookie in that statement. I've never heard anyone put someone else on that same level. What was your take on that?
I really think that Melvin Gordon's comment, and he even called us out. I mean, he even called fans out. It's completely fair. He called us out. Like, he called fans out and said that, that there are Bronco fans out there, that just don't want me here. And I think that this is when it gets a little bit tricky as fans, because we have nothing as far as inside info that goes inside a locker room. We have no idea what conversation is happening inside a locker room. So the Broncos, for all intents and purposes, may want Melvin Gordon back, and we honestly don't know. And the fact is, too, his play on the field, there's arguments to be made for it. Really, the only negative, and I think it's fair, the only negative is his fumbles, really. If you look anything past his fumbling, he should be a Denver Bronco next year. And so because of that, it's just when I see him talk about his return and him wanting to be here next year, it's one of those cases where I just think that he deservedly has a case. And it was, I think it was brought up before here about potentially like Melvin Gordon testing the waters and then having him come back here to potentially as a deal. It just all depends on those running back deals, right? Because it would potentially be his 3rd running back deal, right? And so you have no idea, what the offer would be on the table. If he wants to come back for, say, like a 2-year, $5 to $7 million, should we say, I'm all for something like that. And so I think that, and for all intents and purposes, should we say, if the Broncos do go the new quarterback route, a la a report that just came out this week, and that certain quarterback might require a pretty good dose of a running game, right? So why not have a dual head monster with Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams?
Melvin's comments about how the fans didn't, a lot of fans don't like him. He was hoping that it was fantasy football related, but in fairness to him, when he signed that 2-year, $16 million deal, even before he threw on a jersey, people were already down on him for thinking the Broncos had overpaid him at that time. And then, of course, he gets the off the field incident where he got arrested and nothing ended up happening with that. But didn't help matters. And it feels like this is the first year that we actually get to see his personality. That we actually get to hear him talk. See what he's really like. Even last year he didn't show up. He was training in Florida while the team was in Colorado. So he's integrated himself way more with this team. He has a great tandem with Javonte, and I'm with Cam. I would even go as high as 8 for over 2 years, but if you could do 5 to 7, I'm all for that. To have 2 top line running backs already locked up, that would be great.
And continuing what you talked about, with fans and the way that they treated him, and for the last 2 years and stuff like that, I actually think too, for the fans, I also think we were blinded, because I think that for fans, it's the opportunity that it can very well go in out one ear and out another. Like you just refuse to hear something. And when you talked about his DUI, he actually owned up to his DUI. Like it wasn't like he went up to the conference or the presser and said, or should we say, and now I'm a big baseball fan, but and didn't do the Rafael Palomero and wag his finger and say, no, I did not, no, I did not take steroids, kind of thing, so he didn't do that. He literally faced the music with his DUI, said that I am sorry. And so I think that for what you talked about, Glenn, I actually think we had seen a lot of his personality way before that with his DUI presser and stuff like that. So it was just, I think that fans too often get so wrapped up in the moment with things, especially with fumbles and unnecessary replies. There was a reply this week that said, talking about, I can't wait till you leave a locker room or something like that. And there's just no need for any of that crap.
Mm-hmm.
There's just no need for any of that crap. So I think that there's just certain things that trigger us into automatically believing, oh, you know what, Melvin Gordon should absolutely leave. But I just think that we, at times, I think we're just so blinded at times too, that his personality has been here. I mean, look at the growth of what he's created of the trio with Gordon and Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler. It's special, man. Like, it's absolutely special.
Yeah. When you say blinded, it made me think of something that I failed to mention about last year is Philip Lindsay, right? So the Colorado kid all of a sudden, all of a sudden is making no money, and then the Broncos dole out a $16 million deal to a veteran running back. So again, that was another thing that had the chips stacked against him at that point too.
Well, and this is one thing that I didn't have planned for, but since Cam brought it up, we hadn't really had a conversation with you on what your thoughts on quarterbacking for next year. Now, there's been some rumors and some stories and some scuttlebutt about a Russell Wilson to Denver next year. But with that, I'm assuming comes with new coaches. So what are your thoughts on a Russell Wilson to Denver scenario?
Well, I'm not going to say no.
I hope not.
That's the most important thing. I'm not going to say no. But no, I think it would be so ironic. I tweeted it when the news broke, but it would be so ironic. Russell Wilson won his starting job when he was with the Seattle Seahawks, when Seattle spent all that money when bringing Matt Flynn in, and he wins the starting job in preseason against the Denver Broncos. And then, he goes out and has the performance in Super Bowl 48, the one where Demaryius Thomas, broke the catch record of 13 catches.
Yep.
Again, thank you, DT. Anyway, and then to come forward to even more full circle with the Colorado connection, he was drafted by the Colorado Rockies.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be so ironic if he ended up being a Denver Bronco.
Well, and everybody got mad at me on Thursday because we were talking about coaches, and I said I didn't have a problem.
Wait till you hear this. It's embarrassing.
I didn't have a problem with Dan Quinn coming in as the head coach. That's fine. So then you look at offensive coordinator.
Here it comes.
I thought was Darrell Bevel. Why not? He was the guy that drafted Russell Wilson. He's the guy that brought him to 2 Super Bowls.
He was the guy that didn't hand it to beast mode.
One play.
If that doesn't show the judgment of somebody,
and that's coming from a team that has Pat Shurmur on it. So I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, but we've not had Pat Shurmur at the 2-yard line with a timeout. And that's
because he can't get us to the 2-yard line in a Super Bowl.
But at least give him the ball at the 2-yard line. Bevel wouldn't. So,
I didn't have a problem with it. That's just me. I mean, that was his offensive coordinator when he got drafted. That's the guy who basically got him to the quarterback he is now. I have no problem with Derek Bevel, and it's not like the coaching staff in Jacksonville is going to stay.
So that was the worst take that we've ever had on a Thursday show.
You're the worst take we've ever had.
Well, until Don wanted to trade our Thunder mascot for
that's
Russell.
right. Yeah,
You didn't remember his name, and then he thought we were talking about Quinn Miners instead of Dan Quinn, and then somehow it got twisted to Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. Which is fine. I mean, if she wants to be the athletic trainer, then.
But
you do you.
I'll take the political answer on this one. If he wants Darrell Bevel, he'll probably end up getting Darrell Bevel because
Glenn.
Because it's one of those things that just like if Russell, because it's one of those things, and I guess to reiterate a word, blinded. We'll be so blinded with the fact that Russell Wilson's going to be coming to Denver that.
We don't care.
We won't care who's the offensive coordinator or who's the head coach at that point. But I do wonder, what the certain pairing would be. There's been some speculation of, a Dan Quinn connection, should we say, with a Russell Wilson and Dan Quinn as head coach, and then potentially an offensive coordinator. I really think though, and I think it's a little bit sketchy, and we would have to do a little bit more digging on the head coach. But I am so tempted to bring Doug Peterson in as a potential head coaching candidate. I think that there's obviously all that to certainly unpack with everything that happened in Philadelphia, but and talk to numerous people, should we say? But I think that Doug Peterson, and then you bring in Mike Kafka, I believe he's with the Kansas City Chiefs now or something like that. Or, so the question would be, do the Chiefs want to have him laterally move, to a team in division,
Denver.
help the team, Denver, and have him come here? It would also, in essence, be a promotion too. So I think that's the thing. It's like, it's a promotion. So they really want that to happen. But Doug Peterson, for everything that he's been griped for as a person, he's actually a pretty darn good offensive mind. And so if you would put both those two together, I think that would be an absolutely ideal fit. One of the ones I do like a lot, though, is still Todd Bowles. And Todd Bowles is a potential head coaching candidate here.
Yeah, he's awesome. What do you think, Cam, of Vic ending up staying with the majority of our coaches, but replacing all the coordinators aside from Donatel, I would guess, and put in an offensive mind, maybe a younger offensive mind?
Yeah. Vic is in his 60s?
Yeah.
So it
70s,
ultimately
80s, 90s, does it matter?
He's not Joe Pa. He's not Joe Paterno.
He's like Glenn's age. So I mean, doesn't matter at this point.
I think it just ultimately boils down to a lot of different things. It boils down to, does he want to stay here? Does he want to take a lesser role, more importantly? And does he want no input on staff? And 3 is probably between that and taking a lesser role is probably the most important thing. Does the coach that they want to hire keep Vic Fangio around as his defensive coordinator? That's the most important thing. And
no, I was asking you of keeping Vic as head coach, but bringing in fresh coordinators that maybe were more in line with.
So I did have a thought on this.
Yeah.
After my Darrell Bevel thing.
Oh no.
So hopefully and again, I think Fangio is going to leave. I think he'll be gone. But let's say we kept Fangio. I would have no problem moving Mike Munchak up to offensive coordinator and replacing him with probably the second best offensive line coach, Bill Callahan. Bring him in as offensive line coach.
You just had to throw that name in there. I mean, me being
I know, dude, I'm a Nebraska fan. I know. I get it. But as an offensive line coach, you can't get much better than Bill Callahan.
No, Bill Callahan is one of the most respected offensive line coaches, probably behind Mike Munchak. So,
yeah,
I mean, I'd be for it. But again, what the key is that, and it's the problem with Vic right now, is you'll need a head coaching candidate that is going to be a delegator. In essence, almost like a George Payton in a way. Like when George Payton came in, he entrusted everything with that staff to get it right and to give him all the resources and everything. And so I think for the head coach, he's going to just truly have to be a head coach. And to where, in essence, he can't necessarily call plays. Like he has to be the one that is like the final voice if the offensive coordinator has a certain play in mind or something like this. Like he has to be the final voice of reason in everything that this team does. So it's just, I'm okay with him being head coach, by the way, Glenn. It's just one of those things that too, it's just like, let's just say they bring on a new coach or a new staff. There's just a lot of different things that you'd have to run by him that he would be okay with, you know, in essence, not to use a reference, but Mike and I know, being Nebraska Cornhuskers fans, but it would probably be the conversation that probably Trev Alberts had with Scott Frost. You know, do you want to recreate your staff on the offensive side of the ball, or do you want to go? And Nebraska ended up keeping Scott Frost, but Scott has now recreated his entire staff of just the offensive side of the ball. So it could very well be that situation to where they just asked Vic, you know, would you want to keep certain players, certain staff members around, but there are certain staff members that have to go in order for this thing to be turned around. So I think that it could happen. Just again, it just all depends on what your conversation is.
And that is one of my – that's one of the things that I'm fearful about, is that I really like a lot of the assistant coaches on this team. I think there's a lot of talent of all ages, a lot of experience. The assistants are not the problem. You know, it's the coordination.
3 of them.
Right.
2 of them, really.
Coach, Shermer, and McMahon.
Right. So it's not really the assistant or the position coaches, I should phrase it as. You know, it's I mean, we have so many good position coaches on the team. I'd be afraid to, you know, that we'd lose some of these guys when really the problem are the ones way up on the top of the heap.
Yeah.
I thought you were going a different way with that Nebraska quote. Like, as Nebraska fans, we know how to lose. That's
well,
that's
but I could also say, as a Bronco fan, we know how to lose. So
not as much.
We still get pain, though, Mike.
That's
we still
true.
get pain.
All right, so we are going to go ahead and take. No,
hang on.
No,
we're almost at the end.
Stop it.
We're almost at the end of the third quarter.
When?
This is good for the Russell Wilson talk, okay? It's good for the Russell Wilson talk. Seattle's up 19-13 over the Houston Texans right at the end of the third quarter. This could be a big upset, spinning Russell even further into oblivion from Seattle. What's that?
Rex Burkhead, game-winning touchdown.
All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and spin it into basically the preview of the Broncos and the Lions. What we're going to do is every Tuesday, Broncos Talk has a segment called the Hot 5, and they bring in fans from the teams that we're going to face. They give us the 5 reasons why their team's going to beat the Broncos. I wish I could say it's never going to happen, but scary.
Oh my God.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go into the Hot 5 for the Lions.
Hey, this is Jeff Risden from Lions Wire from USA Today. And we've got a few things to talk about here with the Detroit Lions and how they can beat the Denver Broncos this week. First thing first, number one thing, the reason why the Lions win or lose is their ability to throw the ball down the field. They won one game this year. It's not coincidental that that's the game where Jared Goff was the most aggressive in attacking down the field. He got good protection. He was able to find guys like T.J. Hawkinson, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Josh Reynolds has made a nice little impact on that. And the ability for Goff to look down the field and stay with it opens up the rest of the offense. It helps the run game. That's something that's very critical. So being able to aggressively throw the ball down the field doesn't even have to be that successful all the time. Just the ability to do it is something that's critical, especially against a Denver defense where you're going to have to try to make some plays at some point. Second thing with that, you do have to run the ball effectively. We're not sure about DeAndre Swift this week with his shoulder. It doesn't sound promising, but he's probably going to be doubtful for the game, and I wouldn't expect him, but if he does come back, he does bring a different dynamic and weapon to it. Jamal Williams is a very good between the tackles runner. The run blocking up front is exceptional. It's something that the Lions devoted a lot of time and resources to this offseason, and it's paying off. Penei Sewell at right tackle, Halapula Vaitai at right guard have both been really good in the run game. Jamal Williams is a runner who's got some vision, and it does set up play action very well. So those two things sort of go in hand. Special teams. Got to bring that up early with the Lions. They have the best punter in the league in Jack Fox. He has the all-time NFL record for the highest gross and net average for the first 100 punts of anyone's career. He's a Pro Bowler. He's going to be an All-Pro this year. He's phenomenal. Khalif Raymond as a return man has been successful to some point as a punt returner. Godwin Igwebuike as the kick returner also has shown some success. The big thing is the coverage units. They've been pretty good. They suffered a little bit against Minnesota. They were without their top gunner, Bobby Price. That's something to watch. If Bobby Price can't go, that does impact negatively the Lions' special teams. Kicking has been a real issue. This is a team that has lost 3 games when the opponent has kicked a last-second field goal. Fortunately, the Lions, they're on their 5th kicker this season. Riley Patterson, the rookie from Memphis, seems to be doing a pretty good job. He hasn't missed a kick in 2 weeks. He's pretty good on kickoffs, but that is an area where there's always trepidation in Lions land. Are we going to give up a big return? Are we going to miss a field goal? Is somebody else going to kick a career-long field goal, which has happened 6 different times this season against the Lions? That's certainly something to watch out for. Defensively, the pass rush is not great, but they do bring extra pressure. Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator, is good about attacking up the gut. Alex Anzalone, Derek Barnes, the off-the-ball linebackers are pretty good blitzers. Will Harris, one of the safeties who's not really good at much of anything in football things, I hate to say, he can blitz a little bit. And the ability to bring pressure on that, to not let Teddy Bridgewater get comfortable, to not let the interior runs for the Broncos get some success, because one of the things that the Lions do, they do run blitz exceptionally well. And they've done a pretty good job of limiting most running backs and most running games that they face this year. They play the run on the way to the pass very well, but they do need to get a better job of impacting the passer. Charles Harris is coming off of a game where he had 2 sacks, 7 pressures, former first-round pick. He's washed out at a couple different places. He's really revitalized his career. He's a definite key to the game. He can win with speed on the outside. He's also shown that he can crash inside lately. That's been a huge asset. He is the best pass rusher on the team. They don't really do a lot with just the other guys. Rookies, Aleem McNeil on the nose, Levi Onwuzurike at defensive end. They're solid, they're growing, but they're not the threats that the Lions defense needs them to be yet. Last thing, getting turnovers. The defense thrives on it. It's a young secondary, young corners. Amani Oruwariye has developed into one of the league's better ball hawks. Rookie Jerry Jacobs, undrafted rookie from Arkansas, has been phenomenal. Played well above his pay grade. Has played better than some first and second round quarterbacks this year as the other outside starter. Only has 1 takeaway, but he's a guy who will aggressively go after the ball when he locates it. He doesn't locate. Actually, that's one thing that I'll bring up real quick. The Lions defensive backs do not locate the ball in the air very well. If they're looking at the quarterback in zone, they're good about it, but they don't locate when they're in man very well. So that's another thing that you have to watch for. If the Broncos can get some guys down the field, the safety help isn't great to the outsides. So getting an interception, getting some pressure on it, those two things, they sort of go in hand. Broncos fans know that very well. That's a definite key for what the Lions need to do this Sunday to pull off the win. It's not going to be easy. Denver is the type of team that's going to give them trouble because they're fundamentally sound on defense. This is an offense in Detroit that just doesn't threaten all that much. It's going to take a big play or two, an unexpected big play or two from Detroit to make it happen. And it's happened a couple times this season, but remember, this is a team that did not score over 20 points in regulation until last week, other than the game in week 1 where they fell behind 38-10 and then scored the last 16 points. It's not a great offensive threat. We're hoping that it will loosen up a little bit, but it's not going to be an easy one for Detroit.
And we again want to thank Jeff for doing that for us. I do love those segments; those are fun.
I do too.
Yeah.
Great job.
And like the one thing I pulled out of that entire thing was him bragging about their kicker not having missed in 2 weeks.
No, they have the best punter in the league, Mike. That's what stood out for me.
That one got me a little bit. I was giggling when they actually said, I was like, oh, he hasn't missed in 2 weeks. Congratulations.
I was kind of waiting for him to at some point just be like, just doing his thing and then go, I can't do this anymore.
Never mind. But I will say this. I think we all pretty much agree that no matter what opponent we're facing, the Broncos are better when they stick with the run. But over the last couple of weeks, we have seen, at least I believe that we've seen a drop-off in Jeudy production and Sutton production. And I don't know if it's just Teddy's missing him or they're scheming away from him or what the problem is. But I think that outside of the run game, Jeudy being active in the slot and Sutton being active on the outside is what is going to win us this game.
I mean, they should be taking shots. They've been targeting them, but when they target them, it's not downfield. That's the problem. So they're targeting them, just when they're targeting them is not when they should be targeting them. And that's just the problem. And hopefully, not to call this game, should we say, a preseason game, but it's one that it's one that we should talk about. Like, it's a get right game for the Broncos. It's one that they can get off the schneid. They can get their confidence back. They can get what the juice is flowing for what they have on the offensive side of the ball going. And it's also the game that they need to get Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy the ball, regardless of all the off-field stuff with DT. This is the one where they need to get Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy the opportunities to, and Tim Patrick the opportunities to eat on the offensive side of the ball. Still commit to the running game, but we all know that those shots downfield are going to be set up with that running game. So take those shots downfield and show the level of confidence that you can throw the football down the field. So just make this your get right game for the Broncos.
I'm looking at the inactives today and also the players that the Lions don't have. And
I figure out what that means. What does that mean?
That really could apply to just about anything.
What did I do?
Is that your wife? What, Mike?
What?
Everything falls into line for the Broncos to absolutely destroy the Lions. We have all of our weapons healthy, with the exception of a Mike Boone, and KJ who's been out. But Boone is on COVID protocol, so it's just perfect that Melvin's back. Yeah. We have Reed out, but all of a sudden that was a position that was, our linebacking core was a position that we were worried about. And then now, we have players for that. I'm looking at our inactives are Rippin, Ojemudia, Essang Bassi, Jamar Johnson, and McTelvin. So we don't have our offensive weapons inactive or injured at this point. We have no excuses not to do exactly what Cam said and start opening things up. And you do that by way of the run, but the fact that we have I think I said it to you the other day, I'm glad that the two receivers signed their extensions before, because they've been targeted so infrequently since then that I don't know if they would have stayed like that. Like, if they thought, is there a role for me here? The Lions don't have their top two running backs. Swift is out. Hawkinson is out. If you were expecting a Trinity Benson, revenge game, he's inactive today. The couple linebackers.
I mean, would you have even noticed if he was active? I mean, he hasn't done anything.
That may have been my biggest overreaction of the whole season. Just lamenting. I mean, we had our whole eulogy about losing Trinity Benson when he had such a good preseason, and we thought it was going to be a good situation for him because they didn't have any receivers of their own, and he hasn't had any impact, unfortunately. But we just getting back to the original point, we have every opportunity to have this offense juiced up and putting some serious points on the board and getting some touchdowns for 2 or 3 of these stud wide receivers we have.
Yeah, and for a lot of reasons, actually, like I said, off field and everything, honestly, the perfect play to get Courtland Sutton involved is the Demaryius Thomas play.
Bubble screen.
Throw the bubble screen to Courtland Sutton. I mean, for obvious reasons, one, that is a tremendous touch to start the game for the Denver Broncos to throw a bubble screen to Courtland Sutton. Or should we say the Sean Taylor treatment? I believe the Washington football team or the Redskins at the time took 10 people onto the field, should we say, and did not have their free safety on the field. So there could be something along the lines of that, with the Broncos doing something like that. But as far as just talking about the Courtland Sutton thing, that's like the best way to get Courtland involved is to do a screen to Sutton for not just honoring DT, but to get him going and to get that offense going from just a standpoint with Teddy and everything else. So I think starting out that way would be perfect.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have the coaches go on the field. Like, listen, the last time the DT was here, we ran a bubble screen. He got a touchdown. So we're going to run a bubble screen. You let us get a touchdown, and then we'll let you get one next time.
Okay, so what you're saying is that on the kickoff, that Deontay Spencer fair catches it at the 12, and we do a bubble screen for 88 yards for a touchdown.
The Lions just look around confused, not knowing what's like. What are we doing?
Or we could get a touchback. Teddy could, we could have Courtland, slant across just with the
12.
Pittsburgh play. And Teddy could throw the ball slightly behind him, just like Tebow did. And then we could have Sutton do the stiff arm and run for 80 yards for that touchdown. Yeah. I mean, anything that would honor him in that type of fashion. And what's cool is our fans are so good that we would recognize them that in a heartbeat. Yeah. And which lends to the point, why aren't we doing these plays anyway? They worked. Oh, he would break out for this. I know.
It was horrible.
Yeah. So Johnny's asking who's going to be the breakout star of today's game. Honestly, with the amount of emotion that Courtland Sutton has going into this game, I think it's going to be Courtland Sutton. But then you look at the defensive side of the ball, because that's where we've been strong basically all season. There were a few games where it was like, what are you doing? But it seems like since we've gotten Kenny Young and Baron Browning in there, we've kind of figured it out. Now we do have Malik Reed out, and I've been a big fan of having Weatherly start next to Chubb instead of Reed. So
the mad scientist.
And Weatherly, by the way, is the mad scientist, not the angry aviator. We changed it, Rich. Or Rex Specs. I'll even take that one. But the mad scientist, that's what EJ named him, and I love it. So the mad scientist is what we're going with. I think Weatherly, a.k.a. the mad scientist, is going to have a phenomenal game on the defensive side of the ball. And even if he doesn't get a crap ton of sacks, if he just gets in the way like he's really good at, I'm cool with that.
Mm-hmm. I actually think it would be quite fitting if we had another Ohio State versus Michigan beatdown. What I mean by that is Detroit's from Michigan, and so it would be quite amazing if the stars of the game on the defensive side of the ball are Jonathan Cooper and Baron Browning. I think that would be pretty incredible that, you have something like that where you have Baron Browning's breakout game. Not that he's have been stellar so far, but, you have, where he has a few sacks. He has – because, let's be honest, Jared Goff is a little bit immobile in the pocket. You can be able to create a lot of pressure with him, create a lot of turnovers. And so I think that there will be those opportunities for sacks. And Jonathan Cooper playing with his hair on fire, potentially being a developmental star in the making for this Bronco team, I would not put it past a potential 2.5 sack day I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm not putting it past it to a potential 2.5 sack day for Jonathan Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
Do we... When DT was still on the Broncos, there was only 2 current players that were still on the roster, right? Sutton was one, and
10.
McManus
There are
was
10.
the other, right?
No, there
No,
are 10.
that are still on the roster now.
Yes. Vic said the other day there are 10 current players that played with DT, that there are a number of coaches that coached him, and Modkins actually recruited him because he was he was on the Georgia Tech staff at the time. So he recruited him in college. So he has the longest relationship of all of them. And there were 40 staff members at Dove Valley that knew DT.
It's 10. It doesn't even make any sense.
No, we're talking
because we only have 2 players.
Mike.
What?
He's talking staff members, as in like the people that actually work at Dove.
Oh yeah, no, I meant like players.
No, there were 10 players. Vic said it the other day.
How is that even possible? McManus is the only one from Super Bowl 50 still on the team.
He's talking about connections, though.
Yeah, we're talking about with DT. That played with DT. Cortland played with him.
I know. I said Cortland and McManus.
Oh, we have players longer than that. I mean, Simmons.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we could. I don't have the list in front of me. It was just when Vic mentioned it, because it feels like he's been gone so long.
Yeah,
in actuality, he hasn't. It's only been a couple seasons, really.
All right. Okay.
Or maybe
all right.
3 or 4.
Okay. Okay, so let's go into game predictions, and then we'll. What? I was wrong. My bad. Sorry. Let's go into game predictions before we shut this all down and go watch the game. What do you guys think? Final score: Broncos or Lions?
Well, it's going to be the Broncos. I mean, for not picking against them, what seemed to be, when the Broncos would win, you're actually kind of an idiot if you don't pick the Broncos in this game. The emotions, so I think the Broncos do win this game, and there's going to be a lot riding on a game with this type of emotion. I think that the product on the field is going to be incredible. I think that so much so that I think that the Broncos shut up the Detroit Lions today, and I think that I think that the Broncos win 23-0, and I think that we do see the resurgence, and I do think we potentially see some defensive scores in there, and I think that Pat Surtain gets another pick for a third straight week. So I think that the Broncos just play much, much harder than the Detroit Lions, even though the Detroit Lions, to what Rich said, play really, really hard.
But
and
also
bite each other and bite kneecaps.
But a lot of those players that play really, really hard are not in the lineup today. So at the risk of being labeled an idiot, of course I'm not pitching. Not doing it. I'm going 34-17 Broncos. I think that this is going to be a massive game for Cortland as well. I think Javonte is going to have a big game. I actually picked him in my FanDuel because, with Melvin just coming back, they may give him the start, but the boatload of the carries is going to really come from Javonte, in my opinion. But the emotion and Detroit's injuries and sicknesses, I think, are going to lend to the Broncos really taking over and having probably their best game.
So earlier in the week, I'd said it was going to be like a 17-14 game. But I think I'm going to change that going into how emotional the players are going to be. So I'm going to say it is 24-7. I think the Lions are going to score in junk time where it doesn't really matter, because that seems like that's the only time when our defense is playing really, really well that people can actually score. So I'm going to say 24-7 Broncos. Rich says 24-17 Denver. Jay says 31-6. Sutton with a touchdown to start the game. That'd be good.
Oh my gosh, that would be incredible.
I will take a Denver victory on today. I'll just start with that. I would be a little bit semi-disappointed if the Broncos only beat Detroit by a touchdown. I actually would be.
Mm-hmm.
Ouch, that kind of hurts. I don't know if I'd want to watch that game. 34-20. It says Jeffrey Bryan. Johnny said 30-10, but Johnny's wrong a lot. So, Carolyn Brax 21-7 Denver. Travis
I like the
Tarbach
consistency here.
Travis Starbuck says, "How goes it, fellas?" Goes. We're gonna go watch the Broncos game, so it goes. And with that, we're gonna go ahead and head out so we can catch this game. Want to thank Cameron Parker for joining us once again on the pregame show. It's always fun having you here, my friend.
Thank you so much, and let's go out and represent 88 forever.
There we go. And you can also listen to Mr. Parker on the Mainly Broncos podcast. So go ahead and check that out. You can catch all. That's what I said. Mainly Broncos.
At Mainly Broncos is the Twitter handle.
Oh, at Mainly Broncos. And we'll tag that down below.
Manely.
Manely. And there's no hyphen, no nothing like Neighborhood. But at Mainly Broncos, you can check them out on there. And make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share. Turn on notifications for us and for Mainly Broncos so you can catch all the content when it's posted. And tune into all of our other shows. The Broncos Talk every Tuesday. The Broncos Talk every Tuesday at 7654. MHRT Podcast Thursdays at 7654. And the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue Podcast Fridays at 7654. You can get all the audio versions of all the podcasts on the network on the major streaming services. Links are in the description below. We love you all. We love Broncos country. And let's hope for a Broncos victory this Sunday against the Lions. Also, shampoo may smell good, but it doesn't taste good. So don't eat it. That's my advice for the day.
I have so many different questions right now.
and with that, we're outie. We'll see you guys.